Welcome to part 4 of our interview with Chris Palmer. In the first 3 parts of this mini-series, we've covered Chris's ownership experiences with iconic cars from McLaren, Ferrari and Pagani. But whilst Chris has owned most of our ultimate dream cars, his all-time favourite comes from Porsche.
The Porsche 962, there again, it came about a guy who I knew who races Porsches, who raced Porsches at the time, and I'd had several Porsches, various 911s and GT2s and what have you. And he said to me, I've got quite an interesting car. It's the Derek Bell signature car. Obviously Derek Bell, very, very famous, a sort of lifelong history with Porsche. And Derek Bell had put his name to it. And when I actually saw it, it was built by an Australian chap, but it was actually an IMSA car. It was an IMSA chassis, which belonged to early Haywood team, but it had never actually raced. It was a spare tube, but it was all, you know, I think Haywood at the time, for IMSA, were actually authorised by Porsche to actually build the race cars, you know, for the factory in America. And obviously he'd got a very strong history with Le Mans. He won Le Mans for Porsche, early Haywood. So this was a fab car, what was called a fab car chassis, but it was an IMSA. It was an IMSA car, and it was a spare chassis, and it had been put there again. The build quality on that car was second to none, absolutely second to none. Maybe not quite there, Pagani Zonda standards, but nevertheless, the build quality was fabulous. The only thing, obviously, which it didn't have the 962 engine, because you wouldn't want to run a 962 engine anyway in a road car. But it had got the next best thing. It had got a 993 GT2 engine, which was putting out similar power, so it was running about 580 horsepower. And there again, just immense torque from the twin turbo engine in a car that weighed next to nothing. It weighed less than 1,000 kilos. It was that was just immense. You know, you drive that down any road and you definitely close your eyes. Well, don't close your eyes, but you know, you're on the Mulsanne Straight, you know, and like, pinch yourself, I'm in a 962. You know, Porsche, there's always, like with the Ferraris, with the F40 LM, and even the standard F40s, there's always that little niggling doubt. I know they've moved on a lot now, but there's always that little niggling doubt. This car's going to break. Something's going to break on this car. You don't get that feeling with a Porsche. You just think this thing's made out of granite and it's built to do it. And it won't do it for 24 hours. It'll do it for 48 hours. It'll just keep going. And that's what they feel like. The 962, it really sort of showed off the lines of the car. It had no livery on it. It was gloss black. It was, I suppose, as a road car, you would say there's not a lot of room in them. You know, they are reasonably claustrophobic. They're really built for one. They're not built for two. Although the 962 did have a small seat at the side for some unlucky passenger who you wanted to terrify. But yeah, it had no livery on it, and because it had got no livery on it, for me, it showed the lines off better. You know, some cars, when you look at them with the racing livery on them, the decals on them, that you lose the lines. You know, you can lose the shape of them. But that car, yeah, there's a couple of photographs out there of that car. It does look, even to this day, still looks. That's the Batmobile. You know, if Batman went racing, it had been that. It had been that 962. As far as I'm concerned, and I know different people have got different opinions, but sadly most people have an opinion on these cars and they've not been fortunate enough to drive them. Doesn't stop them having an opinion, you know, but to actually base your opinion on what you've driven as opposed to how it looks or what the mythology or folklore, call it what you like. The Carrera GT to me is by far, that's the pick of the bunch. More so than an F40, more so than an F50. You know, that is like an F50 plus 20%. It's better built, it's faster, it's got more power, the roof comes off the same, it sounds better. It's got an equally good provenance racing engine that's in it, you know, to what the F50 has. It's got better brakes, it's better. It's 10 years newer, so it should be better. And that's the last of the analogue hypercars, as far as I'm concerned. The first one was a red one, was a Red Carrera GT. The same car was then painted white. Porsche Reading painted that car for me. Painted it from red to white into what's called, not Carrera white, it's called Carrara white. Sounds a bit, the spelling is very similar, but it's, anyway. And then I sold that car. I can't think what I sold it for, but it must have been something else along those lines. I sold that car and always regretted selling it. You know, and then eventually saw another one, this silver one, about 4 years ago that came up, and decided I had to have another one. Well, this particular car, the only thing that I've done to it, the exhaust on, although it makes a fabulous noise, even a standard Carrera GT is, when it's moving, is a fantastic noise. The back box and exhaust system, from memory, is 23 kilos. So there's quite a bit of weight in it. I was approached by a company who make race exhausts, and they said to me they really wanted to see if they could improve a Carrera GT, which is no mean feat. But anyway, a deal was done, and they made me a full titanium system for it, which, besides the noise being truly biblical, and it does definitely at 8,000 RPM, it sounds like an old V10 Formula 1 car. It really does make the hairs on the back of your head, on the back of your neck stand up. But it takes 20 kilos of weight, so we went from a 23 kilo system down to the entire system on this car is now less than 3 kilos. So it's taken 20 kilos out. It breathes better, it's up the horsepower, and the noise is epic. Right, yeah, the clutch, the famous clutch on a Carrera GT. The car gets quite a bit of bad press for it. In my mind, there are only two ways that you get a Carrera GT off the line, and it says, I think, in the handbook, you know, you either let the clutch out on tick over, and then as soon as the clutch is out, just off you go, or literally drop the clutch at 3,500, 4,000 revs. Well, I wouldn't recommend that all the time. Even though I spoke to Walter Roll, I was fortunate enough to meet Walter Roll at Goodwood, and I told him I'd had sort of two of these and just got this one kind of thing. It's like my favourite car. Now, when Walter Roll tells you it's his favourite car, you know you're onto something. And we were saying, and he said, have you had the, I think it was an aftermarket that Porsche did, like an anti-stall system. This car hasn't got it, but there again, I would say, if you drive the car every day for a week, at the end of the week, you're fully familiar with it, and it's not necessarily as bad as people make out, and the clutch is very, very durable on it. I think Walter sort of mentioned that they'd done over 100 standing starts in one of the prototypes, and even that didn't burn the clutch out. The clutch had still got a ridiculous amount of life left on it, so it's quite a robust thing. To me, the Carrera GT is a very, very special car. My personal favourite is now the Carrera GT. It's got a fantastic engine, huge pedigree, huge motorsport history, build quality, the roof comes off, you know, just the sheer drivability of the thing, the noise that it makes, the brakes, everything about it. To me, that is the last and greatest analogue supercar. The book closes with that.